Most people, when they think of Jeffrey Epstein, picture an island. They imagine sun-drenched beaches and swaying palm trees in the Caribbean. That island, Little St. James, has become a symbol of his crimes, a place synonymous with wealth and depravity. But what if the real heart of Epstein's strange and disturbing vision wasn't on an island at all? What if it was hidden in plain sight, under the vast empty skies of the New Mexico desert? The true center of his ambition, the place where his most audacious and frightening plans were meant to take root, was a sprawling property known as Zoro Ranch. This was more than just a home, it was a laboratory for his darkest ideas. The story of Epstein is often told through the lens of celebrity and scandal. We hear names of politicians and famous actors, and the narrative becomes a web of influence and power. But this focus misses the bigger, more unsettling picture. The real story, the one that has remained largely in the shadows, is not about who he knew, but what he wanted to create. Zoro Ranch was the stage for this ambition. It was here, far from the prying eyes of the media and the glitter of high society, that Epstein planned to build his legacy. A legacy not of money or power, but of biology itself. He wasn't just collecting powerful friends, he was collecting the future. Unlike his other properties, which have been sold off to compensate his victims, Zoro Ranch remained a puzzle long after his death. It was a place of secrets, named in court documents as a site of horrific abuse, yet its true purpose was something far more bizarre. While the world was distracted by the glitz of his New York townhouse or the infamy of his private islands, Epstein was quietly cultivating a different kind of project in the desert. He was drawn to this remote corner of America for a very specific reason. The isolation was not just for privacy, it was for the freedom to pursue a scientific agenda that pushes the boundaries of ethics and human decency. As we stand here today, on January 6, 2026, the full scope of what happened at Zoro Ranch is only just beginning to be understood. Thanks to new legislative efforts in New Mexico, including a proposed truth commission with the power to subpoena witnesses, the veil is slowly being lifted. The sale of the ranch in 2023 to a mysterious company only deepened the intrigue. This essay will peel back the layers of secrecy surrounding Zoro Ranch. We will explore why Epstein chose this specific, strange location and uncover the scientific obsession that drove him. A story that is far more disturbing than any tabloid headline. It's a story about science, secrets, and a plan to reshape humanity itself. Jeffrey Epstein was a man consumed by a peculiar fear. He believed that humanity was in a state of irreversible decline. In his view, the gene pool was getting weaker, intelligence was dropping, and the human race was slowly losing its edge. This wasn't just a casual observation. It was a deep-seated conviction that shaped his worldview and his actions. He saw himself as one of the few people who not only understood this problem, but also had the resources and the intellect to do something about it. He wasn't content to simply watch what he perceived as the slow decay of civilization. He wanted to intervene. His solution was as grandiose as it was disturbing. He wanted to create a superior version of humanity. This wasn't about social programs or education. It was about genetics. Epstein became fixated on the idea of eugenics, a discredited and dangerous field of science that aims to improve the human race through selective breeding. He believed that by carefully selecting individuals with desirable traits, high intelligence, physical health, and other specific markers, he could create a new generation of superhumans. List: Media Group, students at academic competition, athletes running on track, close-up of laboratory genetic samples stock, distribute equally desirable traits, high intelligence, physical health, and other specific markers. High intelligence, physical health, other specific markers. This new lineage would, in his mind, reverse the decline he feared and guide humanity toward a brighter, more intelligent future. It was a terrifyingly arrogant vision. This obsession wasn't just a fantasy, it was a project he actively pursued. He talked openly with scientists and friends about his plans to seed the human race with his own DNA. He saw himself as genetically superior, and therefore uniquely qualified to be the father of this new human race. He envisioned a future where his genetic code would be passed on to hundreds, if not thousands, of offspring. This wasn't about family or fatherhood in any traditional sense. It was about replication. It was about ensuring his own biological immortality and stamping his personal code onto the future of our species, whether the world wanted it or not. His goal was to turn theory into practice, and Zoro Ranch was chosen to be his primary laboratory. The vast, isolated landscape provided the perfect cover for a project that the outside world would find abhorrent. Here, he could control the environment completely, creating a closed system where his eugenics experiment could unfold without scrutiny or interference. The desert wasn't just a backdrop, it was an essential part of the plan. It offered the space and the secrecy needed to begin a program that, if successful, would have profound and troubling consequences for all of us. His fear of a declining world fueled a monstrously ambitious plan to appoint himself its savior. Zoro Ranch is located near a small, unassuming town called Stanley, New Mexico. On the surface, it's a typical slice of the American Southwest, vast, arid, and sparsely populated. But the location was anything but random. Epstein chose this specific patch of desert for its extreme isolation and its proximity to something equally secretive. The ranch itself is enormous, covering around 10,000 acres of rugged terrain. It features a massive main residence, several guest houses, its own private airstrip, and, according to many reports, a network of underground structures. It was a self-contained kingdom, designed to operate off the grid and away from prying eyes. What makes the location truly bizarre is its neighbor. Just a short distance from Zoro Ranch lies the Trementina Base, a mysterious and heavily fortified compound owned by the Church of Spiritual Technology, or CST. The CST is an ultra-secretive organization within the broader Church of Scientology, tasked with preserving the writings and lectures of founder L. Ron Hubbard for thousands of years. The Trementina Base is their archival headquarters, a place rumored to contain massive underground vaults designed to withstand a nuclear apocalypse. These vaults hold Hubbard's words, etched onto steel plates and encased in titanium capsules. The entrance is marked only by a strange, interlocking circle symbol carved into the desert floor, visible only from the sky. The parallel is striking and cannot be a coincidence. You have two powerful, wealthy, and secretive entities, both building fortified compounds in the middle of nowhere. Both seem obsessed with the idea of preserving a legacy for a distant future. For the CST, it was the words of their founder. For Epstein, it was his own genetic code. The desert provided the perfect environment for both projects, a place where strange ambitions could grow without attracting unwanted attention. Did Epstein know about the CST base before he bought his land? It seems almost certain. He may have seen them as kindred spirits in a way, fellow travelers on a mission to cheat time. The presence of the CST base adds another layer of mystery to the Zoro Ranch saga. It creates a weirdness corridor in the New Mexico desert, a zone where secrecy and unconventional beliefs are the norm. This environment would have been incredibly appealing to a man like Epstein, who operated outside the bounds of conventional morality and law. He wasn't just buying land, he was buying into a geography of secrets. The proximity of these two strange outposts suggests a shared understanding of what the desert offers, a blank canvas for building worlds according to one's own design, far from the judgment of society. To understand the atmosphere of secrecy that Epstein may have sought to emulate, I spoke with Michael, a former high-ranking member of the Church of Spiritual Technology, who agreed to be interviewed on the condition of anonymity. He spent years working on projects related to the archival bases, including Trementina. The level of paranoia is something you can't really imagine, he told me, his voice low and cautious. Everything is about preservation against a total societal collapse. We were told the world outside was fragile, corrupt, and doomed. The only thing that mattered was ensuring Hubbard's tech survived the coming dark age. That was the mission, and it justified everything. Michael described the Trementina base as more than just a storage facility. It was a fortress of belief. The bunkers are real, he confirmed. They are designed to withstand anything. We're talking about multiple layers of security, motion sensors, and staff who are completely dedicated and isolated. They live and breathe the mission. The outside world ceases to exist for them. The idea is to protect the tech from a hostile future, from people who would misunderstand or try to destroy it. This description of a sealed-off world, dedicated to a singular esoteric purpose, sounds eerily similar to the environment Epstein seemed to be creating just a few miles away. When I asked Michael about Zoro Ranch, he paused. We were aware of it, of course. It was the Epstein place. Among the staff, there were whispers. Nobody knew what was really going on there, but in a place that remote, you notice your neighbors, especially when they have their own airstrip. The assumption was that he was there for the same reason we were: privacy, to to do things you couldn't do anywhere else. The desert gives you that. It's a place where you can build your own reality, and no one will come asking questions. There's a sort of unspoken agreement out there among those who choose to build their empires in the dust. Michael's testimony paints a picture of a landscape defined by extreme secrecy and long-term, almost messianic projects. The CST was preserving words. Epstein was allegedly planning to preserve his DNA. Both were operating on a timeline that extended far beyond a single human life. He would have seen our base and understood the mindset, Michael concluded. The mindset is about legacy. It's about outlasting everyone else. It's about believing you have something so important that it must be protected at any cost, even from the rest of humanity. It's a very dangerous way to think, because it places you above everyone else. The most shocking claim about Zoro Ranch is also, honestly, the most central to understanding Epstein's scientific agenda. According to numerous sources who were once in his inner circle, he planned to turn the ranch into what he called a baby-making factory. This wasn't just some crude fantasy, it was a thought-out, albeit horrifying plan. Epstein reportedly intended to impregnate as many as 20 women at a time at the ranch. These women would live on the property, carry the babies to term, and give birth. The goal was to create a continuous cycle of reproduction, seeding the human race with his DNA on, well, an industrial scale. This project was the practical application of his eugenics obsession. He wasn't just talking about creating a super race, he was actually designing the facility to do it. The women, according to the plan, would be carefully selected. He was looking for specific genetic markers, high intelligence, and other traits he deemed desirable. The children born from this project would not be raised by him in any conventional sense. They were to be the building blocks of a new genetic lineage, a living testament to his supposed superiority. The ranch, with its multiple guest houses and isolated location, was, frankly, the perfect incubator for such a morally bankrupt experiment. The logistics of this plan are chilling to consider. Zoro Ranch was equipped with everything needed to sustain a small, isolated community. It had its own water supply, power sources, and even an airstrip to fly people and supplies in and out without passing through public terminals. This self-sufficiency was key. It would have allowed him to operate his progeny project completely under the radar, far from any legal or ethical oversight. The women would be isolated, the children would be raised within his controlled environment, and the entire operation would be invisible to the outside world. It was, in essence, a plan to create a human assembly line. This ambition reveals the true nature of Epstein's evil. It went far beyond personal gratification and financial crime. He saw other human beings, especially women, as mere vessels for his genetic legacy. They were instruments in his grand scientific experiment. The children, in turn, were not individuals to be loved and nurtured, but products to be manufactured. This project, honestly, demonstrates a profound contempt for human dignity and a god complex of terrifying proportions. Zoro Ranch was not just a home or a hideaway. It was the intended site of an operation to hijack the future of human evolution for his own narcissistic ends. Epstein's obsession with legacy didn't stop with his DNA. He was also, deeply invested in transhumanism, a movement that seeks to use technology to radically enhance human abilities and ultimately overcome death itself. For Epstein, this was not just some philosophical hobby, it was a practical goal. He was fascinated by the idea of extending his own life indefinitely, and he spent a great deal of time and money exploring ways to achieve it. One of the most prominent ideas he pursued was cryonics, the practice of freezing a person's body or head at the moment of death in the hope that future technology will be able to revive them. He spoke openly about his desire to have his head and penis frozen after his death. The detail is, honestly, bizarre, but it is also revealing. It shows a man who believed his intellect, represented by his brain, and his genetic code, represented by his reproductive organs, were the two most important things in the world, so important that they needed to be preserved for a future civilization. He reportedly discussed this with scientists and entrepreneurs in the cryonics field, seeking out the best and most reliable methods for preservation. He wanted to ensure that when he died, it wouldn't be the end. It would just be a temporary pause. This fascination with transhumanism provides a crucial context for his other projects. The baby-making factory was Plan A. Spread his DNA far and wide to achieve a form of biological immortality. The cryonic preservation was Plan B. If biological immortality wasn't enough, he would aim for technological immortality as well. He wanted to cover all his bases, ensuring that some part of him, either his genes or his consciousness, would survive into the distant future. This dual-track approach shows the depth of his obsession with cheating death and imprinting himself on the world forever. His interest in transhumanism also helps explain his network. He wasn't just surrounding himself with the rich and famous for social status. He was actively cultivating relationships with scientists, researchers, and tech visionaries who were working on the cutting edge of life extension, artificial intelligence, and genetics. He wanted to be at the center of the conversation about the future of humanity, not as a spectator, but as a key player who could direct its course. His money gave him access to the labs and the minds that were building this future, and he used that access to explore every possible avenue for securing his own eternal existence. While the media focused on Epstein's connections to princes and presidents, his most significant and perhaps most dangerous network was in the world of science. He had a particular strategy. He sought out brilliant but controversial scientists, often those whose work was considered too radical or unconventional for mainstream funding. He positioned himself as a patron of rebel science, providing the money and the platform for researchers to pursue their most audacious ideas. This allowed him to build a powerful network of allies within some of the world's most prestigious academic institutions, including MIT and Harvard. At MIT, Epstein cultivated a close relationship with Marvin Minsky, a legendary figure in artificial intelligence, and later with Seth Lloyd, a prominent quantum computing researcher. He also funneled millions of dollars to the MIT Media Lab through its director, Joy Ito. Epstein's donations were often framed as anonymous, allowing the institution to benefit from his wealth while keeping his toxic name out of the public record. In return, Epstein gained immense intellectual credibility, and more importantly, access to the brilliant minds and cutting-edge research happening at one of the world's top tech universities. He wasn't just a donor, he was an active participant, hosting symposiums and visiting the campus. The story was similar at Harvard. Epstein donated millions to the university's program for evolutionary dynamics, run by biologist Martin Nowak. He also maintained ties with prominent figures like cognitive psychologist Steven Pinker and law professor Alan Dershowitz. These relationships gave him an intellectual veneer, making him appear as a serious thinker and philanthropist interested in the biggest questions facing humanity. He used his connections to host private gatherings of scientists at his various properties, including Zoro Ranch, where they could discuss their work freely, often fueled by his funding. He was, in effect, buying a seat at the table where the future was being designed. The fallout from these connections has been immense and long-lasting for these institutions. After Epstein's crimes became widely known, MIT and Harvard faced a massive public outcry. The president of MIT resigned, and the director of the Media Lab, Joy Ito, was forced to step down in disgrace. The scandal exposed a deep rot in academic fundraising, where prestigious universities were willing to turn a blind eye to the source of money as long as it kept flowing. But more importantly, it revealed that Epstein's influence was not just social, it was intellectual. He was successfully using his wealth to steer scientific research toward his own strange and disturbing interests. The constant focus on Epstein's celebrity connections has, in many ways, served as a distraction from the more alarming truth. Having a photo taken with a politician or flying a movie star on your private jet builds a certain kind of influence, but it is, honestly, largely superficial. It's about access and status. Epstein's scientific network was something else entirely. It was about power of a much more fundamental kind, the power to shape the building blocks of life and technology. While his political friends could offer him legal protection and social standing, his scientific allies could offer him the tools to realize his transhumanist and eugenicist fantasies. This network was far more insidious because it operated in a world that is largely opaque to the public. The complex fields of quantum computing, evolutionary dynamics, and genetic engineering are not easily understood by most people. Epstein exploited this. He used the prestige of institutions like MIT and Harvard as a shield, lending legitimacy to his own dark ambitions. When a Nobel laureate or a famed professor takes your money and attends your private symposia, it makes your bizarre ideas seem less like the ravings of a madman and more like serious intellectual inquiry. He was laundering his reputation through the credibility of science. The danger of this network lies in what it could have produced. Epstein wasn't just funding abstract research, he was funding projects that aligned with his goal of re-engineering humanity. His interest in genetics, combined with his plan for a baby-making factory, shows a clear path from theoretical science to practical, horrific application. His connections gave him access to the very people who might have been able to help him select genetic traits, screen embryos, or develop the technologies needed for his eugenics program. The celebrity connections were about the present. The scientific connections were about controlling the future. In the end, the list of famous people on his flight logs is a sideshow. The truly critical list is the one containing the names of the scientists he funded and influenced. These were the people who could have helped him turn his dystopian vision into a reality. The moral failure of these academics and their institutions is a far more consequential story than that of a celebrity accepting a free ride on a private plane. It's a story about how the pursuit of knowledge, when divorced from ethics and funded by tainted money, can become a tool for unimaginable harm. This scientific network was the real engine of Epstein's power. Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but the ideas he championed have not disappeared. His death in 2019 may have put an end to his personal plans for Zoro Ranch, but the dark ideology that fueled them, a belief in eugenics and a transhumanist contempt for natural human life, continues to find fertile ground in certain corners of the tech and science worlds. Epstein was not an isolated eccentric. He was an extreme manifestation of a mindset that sees humanity as a problem to be solved with technology and selective breeding. His project was a warning sign of where this thinking can lead, when combined with immense wealth and a total lack of moral restraint. The mystery of Zoro Ranch itself lingers. The property was sold to a secretive buyer, and its future remains unknown. But the ranch's legacy is not just in its land and buildings. It is in the questions it forces us to ask. How many other wealthy individuals are pursuing similar projects in secret? How much of mainstream science is being quietly influenced by donors with radical, anti-humanistic agendas? The scandal at MIT and Harvard revealed just the tip of the iceberg. Epstein showed how easily the firewalls between ethical research and dangerous ideology can be breached by money and influence. The proposed Truth Commission in New Mexico offers a glimmer of hope that we might one day learn the full story of what happened and what was planned in the desert. By compelling testimony and evidence, it could finally expose the network of enablers who helped Epstein build his scientific empire. It is crucial that this investigation focuses not just on the crimes of sexual abuse, but also on the scientific ambitions that underpinned them. We must understand how close he came to launching his progeny project and who was willing to help him do it. This is not just about holding the past to account, it's about protecting the future. Ultimately, the story of Zoro Ranch is a chilling reminder that the biggest threats to humanity do not always come from military conflicts or political crises. Sometimes they come from a laboratory, funded by a man who believes he has the right to redesign our species. Epstein's dream of spreading his DNA and freezing his brain was an assault on the very idea of human dignity. It treated people as collections of traits to be optimized, not as individuals with inherent worth. The empty desert of New Mexico was nearly the cradle for this terrifying vision. We must ensure that the secrets buried there are brought into the light so that no such project can ever take root again.